So what do the Brahmins have to do with this power vacuum?
Sure. Well, the real Brahmins, nothing. The fake Brahmins, everything. And this is what we want to drill into, right? Is we want to kind of disclose, or not kind of, but we want to disclose, like, what is Brahm, okay? And first and foremost, and I didn't get a chance to load my chart today in here, unfortunately, but I just want everyone to realize that as you're seeing these 7 Amans, which became known as angels later on, and you could see that they're actually predominantly feminine. And it is because of the act that, again, the inspired entities that were outside of this space, meaning that they didn't have physical bodies, if they wanted to come back into this space to influence things, to teach their children or whatever, they would use that process of inseminating a woman, and then that woman would become a deva because she would exhibit godlike traits, if you may, and be able to prophesy and know about great things, etc. And so that was normal. But there's another pairing to the divas, and they're male. So if we look at the white Aman here, that is Saraswati. So her equivalent as a male is Brahma. So the easiest way to understand this is that each of these stages pair up with a male and a female aspect. And the male aspect of the highest stage that you can receive in physicality, which is the white stage, the pair to that is the female Saraswati, the male Brahma, which later on becomes Abraham and Sarah, but we won't get into that right now. It's just important to understand that Brahma is a Brahm is a title. It is not a specific person, and it just means a male that has achieved the highest level of spiritual attainment that the people recognize, and they're willing to put them into a position of power and a position of judgment. Because the other thing we need to know is that let's not kid ourselves. Just because there was even before there was troubles and dispositions, warring tribes, and those kind of things, it didn't mean that people didn't have common disagreements. His cow ate up all of my grass, or his children are playing in my field. So all those different kind of things needed to be sussed out by somebody. That was the Brahmins, or those who are put in a position of power and judgment. So you can also see why that becomes the position that creates the power vacuum when the real Brahmins are removed. Now, there's some characteristics of the Brahmins as we see in modern times that are pretty replete, and it's generally the white beard. I always say now the modern Brahmin is basically Santa Claus. And it's just because that the entire tradition has been taken, and then some of the aspects of the aesthetics of the tradition itself has been put into another place. So just very clearly, when we're saying, okay, so who is this Brahma? Where does that originally come from? Who can we trace it back to? We have to start looking at symbolism. Because once you know the symbolism of Brahm, then you kind of know, when Brahm is present. So here we have the symbolism of Brahm, okay? And this is under the king Murugan. So Brahm is also synonymous with king. And Murugan has a 6-pointed star, which actually is synonymous with his 6 faces. And this started way before anything like Judaism began. So this is why when I say King David had nothing to do with this star, it's because this culture tops is no more older than 3,000 years tops, while this culture is at least 6, 7, 10,000 is, pretty far back. So which one preceded the other is what I'm saying. But you have people in the modern times now, or cultures, or entire religions, using this symbolism and not actually giving any credit to the originators of the system.
So what are the Brahmins doing specifically with the ancient system of spiritual ascendance in the chakras and the colors of the chakras?
Nowadays, again, I guess we're going to have to say fake Brahmins versus real Brahmins, okay? Because that it helps. The fake Brahmins, what they've done is they've rewrote all the religions, including your Bibles and your Qurans. They've implemented caste systems basing rank on color of skin rather than on spiritual ascendance. And I guess as we keep getting into this, the list goes on and on about basically they change the spiritual system in any way they can to not reflect the truth. And they put
seems that they externalized the knowledge that was originally internalized.
Absolutely. I guess that's one of the big keys to this is the externalization. How now it needs to be an external show or appeal of the power. So to say you have power means to rule over a lot of people. To say you're wealthy is to have a bunch of gold. Versus to say you have power back in the day meant that you had control of your kundalini. You could go into other expanses. You can activate the siddhas. Right? And to say you had wealth in abundance would mean that you had the ability to create children. You had lots of fruit. So now abundance is money in the bank. That has no value in the ancient setting. So we can also see how these fake Brahmins come in and they set up the banking. They set up all these external systems that try to measure us based on external things, just like the skin color. And so this is I'm glad you brought that up because it's a very important topic to hone in on, is that everything becomes basically external. Everything becomes a dependency on technology.